Cool. Okay, so, hi everybody, I'm Tim. Fair warning, this presentation is rated DD-14. As evidenced by the shirt, I probably will swear I was raised by a sailor and she taught me how to talk. Therefore, there will be crude language. I apologize in advance. Potentially suggestive dialogue and some stupid movie references. So we're going to start off with, who am I? Nobody really important. This is the person you see on LinkedIn and any other place. This is the person who I like to think of myself as, the guy who every couple of years goes into the desert, burns stuff, climbs things, and generally causes problems. But this is the person you'll probably meet. The guy who, for his birthday parties, decides he wants to make all of his friends dress in togas and, sort of have at. Part of that is because I live in Eugene, Oregon, just to set that out there, and that is where Animal House was filmed. What I like to say is, first question, how many people in this room are actual intelligence people first and security people second? Okay, there's a few of you. Now, how many people came to intelligence from security? Okay, and how many of you are just security folks? Cool! Alright, so I sort of fucked up along the way and got into this intelligence thing through security. What I found is that people kind of find their way in through one of two different methodologies. Through compliance and patch management, because they need to come out of infrastructure, start at server functionality, or through cyber defense center, maybe incident response, security operations, because they need to do things. So oftentimes on the CDC side, you're using intelligence indicators as a primary methodology for performing your actions, right? That's supporting the IR process, filtering your noise, usually it's IOC focus. Typically on the compliant patch management side, it's vulnerability focused, it's keeping applications up to date, it's understanding the infrastructure, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more verbose, but it does have some metrics, right? There are some metrics associated with it. Typically, security folks, like myself and some of the others in the room, ended up in the threat intel space typically from one of these two paths. Which means we focused on one of two things. We were from that vulnerability patch management side, we focused on compliance, which was about knowing. Know what your fucking shit is, right? Know what's in your environment, know the vulnerabilities, know what patches are, enforcing the application of those patches, being smart, doing the right IT thing, right? All those ITIL things that we learned on when the security folks and the IT folks hung out together. But also looking at the whole cycle, right? Moving to that understanding prospect where we understand everything from the application of new technologies all the way through to their retirement. On the cyber defense side, it's a little bit more about seeing, responding, and, the super awesome dudes that actually get to do the cool hunting stuff, right? And that's new-ish, kind of, not really. But that's about, the first thing you do is you see when bad things happen, you look for those communications, you respond to those comms, you do sweeps for IOCs, but then you start hunting based on TTP, which is a completely different mindset, right? It's doing things very differently. Where do these fall short? They're great for dealing with operational and tactical issues, but they only typically work in sort of a just-in-time type environment, right? I do my vuln scans every 30 days, if I'm lucky. Usually it's every quarter. Those of you who have worked in the private sector for a long time know that if you're getting it every quarter, you're awesome. They tend to fail. They tend to not provide this strategic insight. That's important. And they often will miss the intent and the objects, which means you miss the why. And there's a big, important reason for the why. We're going to get to there in a second. Security versus cyber threat intelligence. Often there's a competition between these two functions. CTI wants to watch. We want to know what's going on. We want to better understand who's happening. We want to gain information and insight. We want to research, review. We want to know about who's doing what and why they're doing it, right? Security wants to detect and prevent things from happening. They want to stop the bleeding, right? At the end of the day, they want to block it, prevent it, move along. There is an intersection point, defer, right? I just like saying defer. But they need to understand the intel to be able to understand the context of what they're actually responding to. This becomes a great sort of coalescence point for the intel folks and the security folks and everybody to kind of work together and begin to build a common lexicon. And that's what I'm trying to get across today, is there needs to be a way for us to rethink how we strategically, on the security side of things, the intel side of things, all come together. And we come together probably at that deeper point. So we're going to change gears for a second here. I'm already going really fast just because I know my time was short. So let's take a second and talk about actionable versus informational intelligence. Anybody know the difference? Bueller? There we go.
So actual intelligence is something that you can use to make a change or make a policy adjustment or put something in place to prevent the action from happening. Informational intelligence is intelligence that informs you of the situation, that doesn't provide you an avenue to make a change in policy recommendations.
Yes. Oftentimes, at a technical level, actionable intelligence is usually indicator focused. And you're absolutely right. Because of the way things are, right, you've got this idea that I need to make a change, I need to find something, I need to prevent it. That's where actual tends to fall into that, atomic indicator set, right? It usually is easy parsable, you have machines that can read it and flash it in front of the face of defenders, right? Informational typically is a little more requirements driven, it's very verbose, it's usually not necessarily structured. If it is structured, it's structured in human readable format. Very big deal. And yeah, oftentimes designed for humans, not for computers. And it's written to analytical standards, right? What I'd like to say is, at the end of the day, we lost, and as Megan will point out, we lost this idea of journalism because a lot of our journalists have become intelligence folks. Good intelligence programs are like what good journalism used to be, right? You had a bunch of people that sat in a room, they figured out what was going on, where it was happening, why. They did investigation and analysis, right? They had collection mechanisms. They had sources. They did this kind of stuff. Dug deep, right? A lot of folks that would have gone into that lovely dying art form have instead moved into intel. That's why you see programs that used to have journalism schools now branching out into some of this as well. At the end of the day, good intelligence programs look a lot like good journalism because you go through a cycle, right? You're not just grabbing these IOCs and using them. You're planning, documenting your requirements. You're trying to understand what's going on. You're doing research. You gather this data, information from all of your sources that match these requirements, right? The long-term strategy is to be able to plan your requirements, to build the research programs that then allow you to normalize all that crap that you just collected and process it into something that is usable. That processing then is handed off to your people who do synthesization, and that word just too many Z's, I haven't had enough coffee yet, or production of the final paperwork, right? The final reporting. That final reporting is, run through peer reviews, processed by analytic standards. It's all handed out based, again, upon those initial requirements. So you've sort of made it almost all the way around. Then you hand it off to the people that actually are going to use it. The people that are going to work with that information. You find ways to get it in their hands, and then you build this feedback loop, right? So they give you feedback as to how my requirements change, what's new, what's happening. You can use all the quantitative data you can get, but you must distrust it without application of your own intelligence and judgment. This is important because it doesn't matter if that MD5 hash or that IP address is bad. What matters is how that reacts, what that means to you, right? Because the important thing is, how do you organize all this shit once you've started to create it, right? There's tools that I've worked with that are really good at building libraries, right? How many of you have large MP3 and or video collections? Yeah, if you don't, you're lying. Or ebooks, right? So, like Calibre, which is a great ebook reader, MediaMonkey, which is my favorite media tool. Neither of them are sponsoring me, by the way. They allow you to tag the information. They allow you to take and organize it, search it, stream your content in a way that makes sense to you. Because at the end of the day, it's about organizing the information in a way that makes sense to you, autobiographically. It's like, how can I explain to you that I got from LSAS to APD 28 in 10 moves, right? Or how when I went to find the TTP for Voodoo Panda, I remembered that I had access to it from a friend in the FSB, but I never gave it to my friends in Israel because of personal reasons, right? These are ways that got me from step A to step B. So I need to figure out autobiographically what does this information mean to me? How do I deal with that? So what do I mean when I say autobiographical? Not just a clever reference to a movie. Who are we? I need to understand who I am when I'm supporting an organization. What is my industry? What is my technology footprint? This is where partnering with the IT people, as Matt mentioned earlier, becomes incredibly important. Because I need to not only understand the technology footprint, but I need to understand the business applications of the technology as well. So, where are we doing business? Why are we doing business there? What is our goal as an organization in general, right? What is it that we want to do? Are we protecting IP? Or is the outcome of this to create alerts, right? If the outcome of my intelligence program is to just create alerts to put in front of SOC people, I'm going to do something very different than if what I'm doing is creating strategic intelligence for my business leaders to determine whether or not we should be expanding our production operations into mainland China, right? I have to understand what my final goals are. And then, what the fuck is the information that I actually have, right? Do I have PDFs? Do I have XML? What is all this stuff? How do you interact with it? What are your search functionality? Do you build alert mechanisms? This is all sort of the operational components that fall out of building this large-scale data source. Also, who has access to the information? We often forget about that, but who can check out the information, right? There is an important aspect to this that I think another job that we have let go by the wayside is that of librarian. The importance of a librarian, a custodian, they understand information, right? And how to get information into people's hands. That's the point, right? Taking... Totally thrown off my game now. Yeah. So but the importance is, librarians are fantastic at this. They have a mindset about taking this information that we have started to gather, that we've built out of our intelligence cycle, right? And process it in such a way that it allows everybody who needs access to it to be able to get access to it quickly and efficiently, because they've developed tools and an entire sort of science over thousands of years, hundreds at least, if not thousands of years, around around information guidance and assessment and making sure that, it goes back to the great libraries of Alexandria, right? How do you get data, things into the hands of people? It's the perfect job, right? We've developed this job for them without even knowing it. So we're stealing journalists, we're stealing librarians. We should probably look at folks like the CDC or weather forecasters for data modeling, simply because they do large data sets and allow the generation of actual usable information out of this, right? So maybe those are the next group we should be going at as well. This is just my thinking on this. This is just me sort of going forward here. At the end of the day, where does this information come from? Right? You're collecting it in-house from your security products, from your information systems. You need to get access to your company's business plans, though, because if you don't have access to that, you're not going to be able to build the requirements in the first place. Right? If you don't know what the company's doing, you're pissing into the wind. SEC filings, and then obviously, you can do things like create OSINT sources, become members of your ISAC. All that stuff is awesome. But you also have to go into vendor land, too, because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you're getting a bunch of open stuff and then looking at your own stuff sort of myopically. There are intelligence vendors out there that have good talent, that have unique access, and have given their analysts time. And I think those are key aspects when looking at the vendors in the intelligence space to determine, are they going to be able to deliver against my requirements? Once you've done that, start building this program. You know, find yourself an analyst, a librarian, a technical support person, somebody who's actually able to build the underlying technical operation, build your requirements using having the analyst and librarian really begin that interview and enumeration process across the business. Get to the executives, get to the physical security folks, really get a better understanding of what the requirements are from a programmatic perspective regarding your intel. Do some vendor analysis, pick up the appropriate vendors, go to their intelligent repositories, find the right providers, get tips, whatever you want to call it. Build your integration strategy. So technical integration and business process analysis is something that's often overlooked in this process because we'll get to the point where we have a lot of stuff, we haven't figured out how to use it. Right? So this BPA becomes incredibly important after you've gotten to the point where I'm now getting the data, I'm getting the information, ultimately I'm getting the intelligence, but I haven't integrated it into my process. So building out that BPA, again, good spot where your analysts and your librarians can kind of help guide that and interact with your IT people. Actually, that tech support person, which I'm calling them technical support, but they're ostensibly your infrastructure operation, will be your tie back to technical integration, because usually you're going to steal somebody from IT or IS, InfoSec, to be that person. Your enrichment, putting everything into your tools, adding your own content on top of it, and ultimately building out the dissemination strategies. Do your executives every Monday morning want to have a report? If so, put that in as one of your requirements. What's that report have to contain, right? Getting that and building out the dissemination pattern. Do you have to brief the CIO every morning at 10:30? Right? Knowing what that looks like. Because oftentimes, this is where you start when you build out your intel operation as an organization, right? Again, that technical support person, they build, maintain the code, they build the technical collection integration mechanisms, and they keep those tools running. Because God knows, if you don't have somebody that's focused on keeping the tools running, they will fall apart. Again, anybody in InfoSec or IT knows that you can leave a computer running, and this poor guy's, this is his last day, by the way. He's retiring today. Keep the tools running as much as possible, but eventually, if they're not watched, they do break down. Librarian, managing the content into the repository, using the PIRs to guide the content, aging and tagging. Aging is important as well. If you don't have an aging strategy for your information, then looking at a report from 6 years ago may have absolutely no bearing on what you need to know today or for this weekend when you get that alert from the supposed Russian bot that is going to bring down your network with a DDoS attack, right? And the analyst writes the reporting based upon the guidelines that you've developed, right? So that's your sort of your core team, that seed that you build. They can end up building an actual intel operation, right? If you build this appropriately and are integrated effectively with your organization, you can end up with somebody like an Intel Op Manager, multiple community leads, analysts, and an entire operational and enablement segment inside the organization dedicated just to keeping this running. So I went intentionally quick because my time was short, so questions? Oh, excellent. Thank you.